So I grabbed the mentioned subject from my car and returned into the house again. When I had entered Chloe's room, I instantly intended to start, because I hated it when I had something to do and procrastinated it from 1 minute to the other. In the end, I namely had to do it anyway. When I told her my plan, and with it that I would return to hers later on, she only agreed and further demanded of me to step forth when I needed something. As a result, I submerged into the topic and lost any sense for my vicinity. When I reached the state of razor-sharp focus, everything else that was not connected with my occupation just faded away. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Picasso were the only ones accompanying me at that time. I even lost Chloe out of sight as I wondered after 60 minutes of learning where she had gone. Her abstinence didn't inhibit me too much, as I jumped right back onto the train of art after my little respite. Wee small facts, like years, were especially hard to learn, let alone when they needed to be learned parallel with others. Their years of age, the time they experienced their breakthrough, and when they died. There was a high chance of confounding that, so I needed to be highly aware which date I connected with whom. The ironical part was above all that we needed to prepare 3 artists, although only one of them would be tested. There was much distraction indeed, and many things to incense me, but after all that yielded nothing, so I just kept my composure and did my best. After some time of intensive studying, it was inevitable to reach my low. Only fortunate that I got over and done with a lot, so I was really deserving of a little break. A break that was in fact initiated by some knocks at the door. While it slowly swung open, I turned around and scratched my tired eyes. When the blur had gone subsequently, I saw a little pleasant surprise in the form of a cup of coffee handed to me by Chloe. I hope you're doing well so far. When you're ready, just call me and I'll interrogate you. Even before I could thank her, she already had left the room again. I consecutively used the recurred calmness to take 20 minutes for myself to apply one of my learning strategies. Relaxing my mind a little bit, taking tiny sips of coffee and looking outside the window. Or alternatively, just laying my head onto the desk for a couple of minutes and closing my eyes. Latter always worked quite well, because I was not the one being apprehended by deep sleep easily. Unlike those people who even tend to fall asleep on the toilet or inside the classroom, I only inclined to drift off for seconds before returning. This granted a meditation-like effect, which really helped me going into extra time. And so I did, as I crossed 1 hour more away from the clock. In the meantime, it had become 4 p.m., which meant almost half of the day was over. But after all, it was time invested in learning, and thus propping the greater plan. Right when I closed my organizer as a sign of completion to give myself the opportunity to nod off, I winced profusely as my phone told me that I received an incoming message. Out of the build-up momentum, I investigated closer, only to see that I really forgot everything around learning, even things that were of a higher urgency at that moment, namely the dinner with my parents. I completely forgot to keep them updated. Well, more precisely, I didn't even arrange an appointment with them. Maybe because I didn't even come to a conclusion with myself. However, being overcharged with pressure, I jumped off the chair to consult Chloe. I ran down the stairs and cautiously called her name to not appear like a hooligan. When she finally showed up, I completely blindsided her with my question. When should we leave? I'm into my parents. 6 p.m. 6:30. A little bit insecure, but yet reasonable, she responded. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I think your parents, the hosts, should decide when it takes place. Didn't you come to terms with them yet? Yeah. Therein lies the problem. Then I would suggest to set it up a little bit later, but not too late. To have at least a little bit of precaution on all sides. With a brief alright, I returned upstairs, while staring at the phone dialing. Right when I heard the voice of my mom greeting me, I reciprocated instantaneously. So, first of all, sorry for being so late. But at least I'm doing it now. So, when would you like it to take place? First, covering my excuse, she replied, "It's okay. I mean, let's say it's timely. Your dad is currently in the city anyway for doing some last errands, and when he returns, I'll gradually prepare dinner. But do not expect that it happens before 6. I namely don't know when exactly he returns. I'd say it's alright when the two of you arrive at 6:30. With an exact time I could orientate toward, and that was not urging me to haste. I started breathing more calmly, and furthermore affirmed that we would be present at the mentioned time. Then I excused myself one last time before terminating the phone call. Afterwards, I laid my phone aside, granting me a major break through seizing my mind. Only then, with a much healthier state of mind, I decided on updating Chloe. Again walking downstairs, calling her name. The same procedure as before, only this time a more fulfilling ending. When she had agreed with me, she proceeded to the matter which actually ought to take place instead of this hurry. Then we have still some time for art. I always wondered what it's like to be a teacher. I guess that is my dominant streak coming forth. However, I guess you have all facts present, haven't you? In between all that running around, I probably forgot a major percentage again. But to let her play teacher, I gave in and nodded. As a consequence, we went upstairs, where I gave her my organizer and moreover adumbrated what exactly I was supposed to know. Then the procedure started. Alright, tell me the full names of all 3 painters. I rallied my knowledge about the 3 artists and slowly answered. So there's Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Pablo Picasso. Yeah, but you gave me only the full name of one. I don't understand why you should be able to tell their complete sequence of names, but nevertheless, try again. I contemplated once more and indeed discovered some names I thought to have encountered at the beginning. So, Leonardo da Vinci, Pablo Ruiz Picasso, and Michelangelo Buonarroti. As a result, she nodded, which gave me a little respite, while she constructed the next task. That went just like the first, but encompassed the dates and locations of their birth. Except for that, she also made me reproduce their other occupations, their education, and some of their artworks. All in all, it took nearly 1.5 hours to answer everything extensively. But as a consequence of those exertions, I really felt well equipped for the actual exam. Totally contrary to earlier, when I learned of my own accord. Then, namely, I only spoke with myself, so to say, and not built sentence structures for someone else. But as this was also required of me within the exam, I really considered that it would pay out later, as I already had the knowledge packed into sentences, and not only vaguely dispersed, somewhere in the secluded corners of my mind. After all, both of us likely drew something satisfying from it. In her case, it was probably the exerted dominance. I mean, who does not like to be imbued with the might to determine the way to go? However, she as well as I were prompted to smile in the end, and that, although we just dealt with a pesky duty, best case scenario. But not too much time for rejoicing was present, as the end of our learning session was heralded by the 6 o'clock bell of the wall clock downstairs. And that meant we had 30 minutes for arriving timely at my parents'. The last thing I wanted was unnecessarily harassing them, because I already had done that enough, albeit unwittingly. So I requested of Chloe that she prepared herself, while I did the same. In my case it was the lesser evil, because I was still wearing the clothes from yesterday. They were appropriate for school, so they were also appropriate for the dinner with Mom and Dad. I had no clue as to what Chloe had left to do for dressing herself up, but notwithstanding the above, I arranged that I waited outside in the car so that we could depart right when she joined me. With that arrangement settled, I took my bag and made my way to her parents to show gratitude for their hospitality before ultimately leaving. That transpired at least indirectly, as I only heard their answers coming from a room I could not locate. But it was sufficient for not being too rude by leaving without anything. Other than that, I just followed the plan and decorously took a seat in my car. While I was waiting for Chloe, I checked my inbox again, just in case there was an aberration as regards dinner. But since I had received no messages at all, I laid it aside and passed the remaining time with staring at the premises of Family Baker's neighbors. Still unreal where I was. But as psychological studies claim, at some point, due to mere exposure, you will get used to almost everything. Primarily by subconsciously allocating the recurring experience to something familiar, and thus to something positive. It could also apply to my case, although I had not experienced something like the emergence of a routine yet. Neither could I assess Chloe nor this place as daily mundane. However, while I was ruminating about the past weeks, the situations that emerged, and the people I shared them with, I suddenly heard the clicking noise coming from the passenger's door.